When examining the first boss fight with Baldur from God of War 2018, I mentioned how it felt more grounded compared to the previous games. Not only was this due to the over-the-shoulder camera and fundamental changes to the combat system, but also because of the one-shot film method that focused entirely on the action with no cuts or transitions. Things did become much more over-the-top in the finale, but it was more personal and endearing, which the writing and circumstances between the main players involved masterfully reinforced. So, it's interesting to go back to God of War 3, which was originally released in 2010 for the PS3 and then remastered for the PS4 in 2015. This is when Kratos was at the height of his furious vengeance, assailing Olympus with the help of the Titans. It pushed the boundaries of brutality and implemented gimmicks like first-person executions, read witnessing the painful death of Kratos' victim from their perspective. But any amount of bombastic action and copious gore was a speed bump en route to the battle with Kronos. He appeared in the first God of War, punished by Zeus for participating in the Great War, which saw the Titans battling the Olympians over the course of a decade. While it was assumed that no one would dare infiltrate Kronos, since it meant challenging Kronos, Zeus's father wasn't really about all that, and thus allowed anyone to try and survive its many challenges to claim Pandora's box. However, following Kratos' victory over Ares, Zeus would become consumed with fear, which was caused by opening Pandora's box. As punishment for helping Kratos, Kronos would be banished to Tartarus to forever suffer. Though Kronos harbored hostility towards his son, he wasn't exactly a fan of his grandson Kratos either. Along with the death of Gaia, who would betray Kratos and suffer his wrath, Kronos blamed his current predicament on the Spartan. From there, they engaged in battle, if you could call it that. Due to Kronos being absolutely massive, this isn't exactly a toe-to-toe fight between the two. So, how did Kratos emerge victorious? Before the 2018 sequel, God of War was more known for its brutal yet stylish combat that combined fast-paced combos with air juggles, spells, and other crazy weapons. Quick-time events would pop up when brutally executing bigger foes and bosses. But the game was also known for its puzzle-solving and platforming, the latter emphasizing the grandiose scale of many environments. All of these elements came together amazingly well in the fight with Kronos. It starts out with Kratos using his solar flare ability to blind Kronos and avoid being squished. From there, it's a battle up the Titan's arm as Kratos fights off several smaller enemies in the process. As Kronos stands upright, it suddenly becomes a platforming sequence as Kratos scales the arm, attacking a weakened spot to re-establish a horizontal base. Cue more minions to fight, while Kronos unsuccessfully attempts to squash the player with his hand and blow them away. Adding insult to injury, Kratos would chip and then rip off one of the Titan's fingernails, but it's a prelude for worse things to come. More platforming, new hammer-wielding enemies, and attacking the massive nail that connects Kronos' restraints together eventually leads to Kratos hanging off of the Titan's hand and fighting off more foes. And, just when it seems he's being shaken off, Kratos grapples across the restraints and winds up on the other arm. Eventually, Kronos has enough of all of this and just swallows the Spartan whole, but that was pretty much part of the plan. When Kronos ruled the world, he was cursed by his father Uranus, whom he had slain, to have his own children rise up against him. As a result, he would swallow 5 of his children after they were born, such was his paranoia. Before Zeus could also be swallowed, his mother Rhea replaced him with a stone which Kronos would proceed to swallow, unaware of the betrayal at hand. Zeus would then be raised by Gaia and eventually grew to oppose his father, freeing his siblings and starting the Great War. As Kratos battled Kronos, his real objective was the swallowed stone, known as the Omphalos stone. He was to retrieve this for the blacksmith Hephaestus, who would forge a new weapon for the Spartan, and intended to betray him, but that backfired. So, with Kratos now inside of Kronos, he proceeds to retrieve the stone and tear open the Titan with the blade of Olympus. Kronos' intestines begin to spill out, and he subsequently asks Kratos to spare him. Unfortunately, this Kratos had absolutely zero chill. Finally breaking the nail connecting the restraints, he proceeds to impale Kronos through the chin with it. As he's restrained, Kratos uses the Blade of Olympus to finally slay the Titan. This wasn't necessarily what Zeus set out to do, and it could be argued that Kronos' post-war punishments were a fate worse than death. But even so, this was an especially brutal way to go. The sheer magnitude of violence on display is truly something else, and is almost comically over the top. The climax sees Kronos cursing Kratos as a coward who kills his own kin, though it serves more to highlight the Titan's hypocrisy since he went down the same path. You could even say that Kratos' approach to the whole deal, and the lessons he learned from his destructive journey for vengeance, is ultimately what led him to killing Baldur and causing Ragnarok to occur 100 years earlier. This isn't a straightforward boss fight so much as Sony Santa Monica leaning into what the series did best at the time. Huge spectacles, massive environments, and awe-inspiring set pieces that push the PlayStation hardware to its limit while going for a more blockbuster cinematic approach. Mechanically, there's a fairly simple amount of platforming and quick-time events, along with fairly non-threatening minions to fight. But the fight not only told a compelling story by itself, but helped reinforce some of the franchise's core themes. Whether Kronos, and eventually Zeus, deserved to die is less about their overall characters and deeds, and more about the extent that Kratos was willing to go to ensure their demise. Not just for vengeance, but simply because beating an enemy wasn't the end of a fight. They had to be killed regardless. How Kratos dealt with that in his later years, and the trials that come with it, is ultimately what makes his current character so interesting. Again, how this all ties into God of War Ragnarok remains to be seen, especially if Kratos and Atreus end up battling Odin. Will it be a knockdown, drag-out brawl like the fight with Baldur, a massive spectacle akin to Kronos, or something else entirely? We'll hopefully find out sooner rather than later. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.